The Last of Us is without a doubt one of PlayStation's most critically acclaimed series of all time from both critics and fans alike. The Last of Us firstly released on the PlayStation 3 console in 2013 towards the end of the console's life cycle, and it did push the system to its absolute limits. Then in 2014, just a year later, we were treated to The Last of Us Remastered for the PlayStation 4. This was very much of course the same game as the year before, however it did come with improved visuals and performance. To put it simply, it was just a better version of the game that we already loved. And in 2019, of course, we got The Last of Us Part 2 for the PlayStation 4 as well, which took a very surprising turn that did not sit well with a lot of the fans. Personally, I thought it was a pretty good game and it works very well, but of course for a lot of people that was not the case. And then in September of 2022, we saw The Last of Us Part 1 launch for the PS5, of course the same as the original Last of Us, but once again this was remastered, well not remastered, but remade from the original game which started it all, and this was made from the ground up. And with the aid of the current gen console's technology, the game looked, played and performed better than ever. Better of course than even The Last of Us Part 2. Really impressive stuff, and this released on PlayStation 5 in September of 2022, so not that long ago, about half a year ago. When this did launch, it went fairly well with fans. The price wasn't great, it did cost £70, which is a pretty outrageous price considering it's the third time the game has released, but of course it was made from the ground up and it did look outstanding. But once again, of course, it's the exact same game we've played before. But this obviously was a good remaster, or well, remake at the end of the day, and that was the good part. And now, The Last of Us Part 1 is coming to PC. On March 28th of 2023, well, it was meant to be March the 3rd, but due to a delay, it will be releasing on the 28th. We will be getting The Last of Us Part 1 on PC, and this will be releasing via Steam and Epic Games launchers. So, in this video, we'll be going over everything we know about The Last of Us Part 1 and its PC release. We'll go over the release date, which of course we mentioned a bit, everything we know about that and how it will be releasing and everything and how that will work, and we'll look at the PC requirements and the general information that you need to know about The Last of Us Part 1 on PC before it does release, and of course avoiding any spoilers. We won't be getting into anything about the story or anything like that, so you're all good on the spoiler side of things here. So let's get into the crucial details about The Last of Us Part 1 PC release. So first of all, the pricing and the general bonuses you'll be getting by purchasing this game. So there is of course The Last of Us Part 1 Standard Edition, which comes in at £50, and if you pre-purchase even the Standard Edition of the game, you will receive some in-game items. One of these is bonus supplements. These are used to increase attributes such as max health, crafting speed, listen mode distance, healing speed, and improve your weapon sway. And you also get bonus weapon parts, which are used to upgrade weapons and craft weapon holsters when you are at a workbench. You'll get these for pre-purchasing the game. It doesn't matter which edition of the game you pre-purchase, providing that you do just pre-order the game. This can be the Standard Edition or Deluxe Edition, you'll receive those pre-purchase benefits. And then of course there is the Deluxe Edition of the game. This comes in at £60, and this will include quite a bit. You'll first be getting the single player story and the Left Behind prequel chapter. You'll get the early unlock to the following in-game items. You'll get increased crafting speed skill, the increased healing speed skill, a 9mm reload speed increase upgrade, a rifle clip capacity increase upgrade, explosive arrows gameplay modifier, dither punk filter, a speedrun mode, and 6 weapon skins, these being the black gold 9mm pistol, the silver fill green 9mm pistol, the rubber tactical shotgun, the sculpted oak shotgun, the arctic white bow, and the carbon black bow. You're getting all of that if you get the Deluxe Edition of the game. And as we did mention earlier, the Deluxe Edition and the Standard Edition are available both on the Steam launcher and the Epic Games launcher. These are the same prices and will be releasing at the exact same time on the exact same day on the 28th of March. So of course when it comes to the launcher, this is really just personal preference. A lot of people will go with Steam, but this is really up to you. If you prefer Epic Games, then of course go ahead and use the Epic Games launcher. So a few bits of key information. There is going to be full controller support for this, so you can get pretty much a PlayStation 5 experience really by playing this on PC. You'll be able to get access to controller support, so you'll be able to use a DualSense controller or even a Xbox controller on The Last of Us Part 1 on Steam, that is. On Epic Games it isn't 100% certain whether you'll be able to use a controller or not, but on Steam it is definite, and there will be Steam Cloud saves, remote play and everything like that, and I assume there will be Steam Deck support. That hasn't actually been confirmed, but I have no doubt that it will be supported on the Steam Deck, and there will be Steam achievements as well if you are interested in unlocking those. So in terms of the actual features of the game, this is of course just going to be The Last of Us Part 1, but it will also include the Left Behind DLC for both editions of the game, those being of course Standard and Deluxe. You'll be getting that Left Behind DLC no matter the edition, and of course this will be with better graphics and modernized gameplay, so some improved mechanics as well, and less bugs and everything like that. So the graphics will be better, actually slightly better than the PlayStation 5 version of the game, and of course the gameplay will be the exact exact same, but of course the difference really will be that you might be using a mouse and keyboard. That's really the only difference, to be honest, between The Last of Us Part 1 on PC and PlayStation, and of course you can get more frames when it comes to PC. You'll be able to go above 60, providing you meet the requirements, which we'll get into soon. But yeah, this will just be The Last of Us Part 1 with that Left Behind DLC, with better graphics and modernized gameplay. That is the simplest way to put it, and that is everything that will be part of this PC release for The Last of Us Part 1, which, like we mentioned, will release on the 28th of March. So now it's time to get into the information about the PC requirements before we wrap things up here. And to do that, we're just going to head over to an image of the PC requirements and talk things through. So here we have the PC requirements for The Last of Us Part 1 for all platforms. This doesn't matter what platform you're on. As you can see here, Epic Games Store and Steam, it does stay the exact same for both of those launchers. So these are the performance goals. So we'll start with minimum. So the minimum is for 30 frames per second at 720p on the lowest graphical settings. And for this, you're going to need a Ryzen 5 1500X or an Intel Core i7 4770K. And these are pretty basic CPUs, pretty old, of course, 4th generation i7 and a 1st generation Ryzen 5. They're pretty old. The Ryzen 5 one is a little bit better than I would expect you to need. You could probably go with something a bit worse, but generally speaking, that is a quite old system if you're using those CPUs. So yeah, you will need those, and you'll need an RX 470, which is a 4GB graphics card to achieve this. So actually quite high, and of course there is also the option for a 1050 Ti or a 970. 1050 Ti, a lot of people still use. Pretty outdated now, but a lot of people still use it, and you are going to need 16GB of RAM. You could maybe get away with 8, I'm not too sure, but 16 of course is the standard for gaming these days, and 100GB of free space is needed. Quite a lot, but I would expect that with a game like this, and generally games take up more storage on PC as well. An SSD, of course, it says that's the minimum, but realistically you could use a hard drive in any of these and it should be the exact same. You might get maybe a slight bit of stuttering, but it will be the exact same, to be honest. There won't be loads of need for fast loading times or anything like that. You can get away with using a hard drive. But then of course there is the recommended settings. So for the recommended settings, you're going to be at 60 FPS at 1080p on the high graphical settings. That's a key bit of information there. For this, you're going to need an AMD Ryzen 5 3600X. You could get away with a 3600 without a doubt. And then the Intel Core i7 8700. Pretty standard CPU there. Actually a bit older on the Intel side of things, so maybe you could, obviously anything above that you'll be absolutely fine. So it's pretty cool that you can have an older Intel CPU. And then it recommends a 5800 XT or a 6600 XT or a 2070 Super or a 3060 at 16GB of RAM. Pretty high specs there, for especially on the GPU side of things. CPU, I'd say that's pretty standard, but when it comes to GPU, you need a 3060, a 2070 or a 6600 XT. That is very high. A 2070 Super, you might get people, really, I know people with a 3060 that do play on 1440p, so you know that's not ideal that it is for 1080p. Of course, on 1440p, if you use these GPUs, you could just turn down these settings a bit, but either way, pretty high specifications there. And then of course there is the performance mode. Now this is for 60 FPS at 1440p using high graphical settings. Now for this, you're going to need a 5th generation Ryzen 5, the 5600X, or a 9th generation i7, the 9700K. Pretty interesting that it's actually always choosing older Intel CPUs. Then you're going to need a 6750 XT, or a 2080 Ti, or you could have something like a 3070 Ti, 3080, or you know, anything like that. That would be absolutely fine. And 32GB of RAM is recommended there. Personally, I think you could get away with 16, I think you'd be fine, but 32GB is recommended, and that is to achieve 60 FPS at 1440p on high settings. Then finally, there is the maximum, and this is for 60 FPS at 4K using the Ultra preset. And this recommends a AMD Ryzen 9 590X, and it also recommends an Intel Core i5 12600K, depending on the platform you're using. And then it also recommends an AMD RX 5900 XT using FSR quality, a downscaling, upscaling resolution there, or a RTX 4080 at 32GB of RAM. And yeah, that's very, very high. I doubt many people here will be needing that, but if of course you are playing at 4K, then those are the requirements there. An insane CPU and an insane GPU is of course going to be needed to hit 60 frames per second at 4K using the ultra graphical settings. So there you go, that was an overview of the PC requirements for The Last of Us Part 1 on the Steam launcher and the Epic Games launcher. Very, very high actually. Those are pretty high settings for a game that's not an open world game. Of course that is quite high, but then again, this is a new game and the graphics are hopefully going to be outstanding. So hopefully there'll be some strong optimization and there shouldn't be any issues when it comes to that, since of course this is only releasing on PC PC, with it just being a PC port, the optimization needs to be strong at launch. So hopefully that'll be the case and there won't be any issues with negative reviews about optimization or anything like that. And that does just about wrap up things here. That's everything we know about The Last of Us Part 1 PC release before its release on the 28th of March. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, or hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content just like this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.